The sinuous, soulful sound of rhythm and blues hits the audience right from the start of Memphis. Take a deep breath as the curtain rises because the exuberance doesn't stop. This quote by the Associated Press for a piece in the Oklahoman perfectly encapsulates the fast-paced energy and non-stop fun that is Memphis. My purpose today is to discuss 3 productions of the musical Memphis, and to show you some production photos from those shows. To prepare for this speech, I read the show, watched clips from the show, and read reviews. Today we will be talking about 3 productions of Memphis. The Broadway production at the Shubert Theater in 2009, the West End production at the Shaftesbury Theater in 2014, and a production done in Chicago at the Porchlight Music Theater in 2018. To begin, we will look at the Broadway production done at the Shubert Theater in 2009. My first piece of evidence comes from a review of the show done by Linda Weiner for Newsday in 2009. She says, "The moody and inventive production has been put together with down and dirty elegance by director Christopher Ashley, choreographer Sergio Torrijo, set designer David Gallo, and costume designer Paul Tazwell, who let the musical and dramatic and pop-up scenic discoveries peel off one another at a pace breathless and disciplined, original and authentic." I like this quote because it talks about how all of the elements of the show combine together to help give you a grounded and dirty feel in contrast to the bright and loud music. My next piece of evidence comes from the Associated Press, done for a piece in the Oklahoman. They state, "Memphis is a big show with a large cast, more than 24 actors, and David Gallo's multiple sets ranging from that Beale Street dive to radio and television studios, but Ashley makes it all move with surprising speed." I like this quote because I like how much attention it brings to the speed with which the show moves. In reading the play and watching clips from the show, I think it's obvious that everything moves at a pretty quick pace. It is impressive that they were able to move such large pieces of scenery and large groups of people with such ease. My last piece of evidence comes from a review done by Matthew Murray for TalkinBroadway.com. David Gallo's scenic design is a utilitarian, not always attractive studio meets back alley design that's given a considerable boost by Gallo's projections, designed with Sean Sagady, Paul Tazwell's vivid costumes, and Howell Blinkley's lights. I like this quote because it says that the sets work very well with all of the other elements, even though it isn't always pretty. The scenery does what it needs to do in showing these locations to the audience and helping them stay in the world of the show. Now I'd like to show you a couple images from the Shubert Theater production. So these are 2 of my favorite images that I found of the Shubert Theater production. This image is actually a set rendering of the show done by David Gallo. You can see here the lighting is very, very beautiful. I mentioned that in the last quote I said. The purples and the blues, and you see the kind of down and dirty, can't remember you see it, but the windows here, they're really dirty. A little bit of grime back there, but it really kind of helps you get into the show and kind of stay there. I like this one because it has the entire cast there. We see a whole range of costumes here, so many different colors. I love the lights going all the way around the stage here, framing it. I think both the set and the lighting and the costumes are all done very well for this production. Now that we've discussed the first production, let's look at the next production done on the West End at the Shaftesbury Theater in 2014. My first piece of evidence comes from a review done by Terry Eastham for LondonTheatre1.com. He says, "The set is brilliantly designed and moves effortlessly through the many scene changes from the seedy underground nightclub to a brightly lit television studio." I like this quote because it discussed the elements of making the scenery transition into all of the unique settings. And that was a very big thing that was very noticeable in the script and in the clips that I watched. Everything moved very fluidly and was very wonderful. My next piece of evidence comes from a piece done in the Telegraph by Dominic Cavendish. "Ashley could take things at a less furious pace. Scenery no sooner lands than it's up and away again. But the cumulative effect is to have you itching to rise to your feet to join the revolution." I like this comment because I like how he says things were maybe a bit too fast, but the effect helped to add to the energy and the want to the audience to join the fun. My last piece of evidence comes from a review posted on the website lastminutetheatertickets.com. "The care that went into set design of this musical is the best I have seen recently. From the actual set itself to the pedestrians passing by the bar in the opening number, each detail was polished and effectively managed." I like this quote because it mentions the level of detail and attention that went into the set. There are a lot of elements involved that allow the audience to feel like these sets are genuine locations. Now that we've discussed some of the evidence posted, let's look at some images. All right, so in this first image here, you can kind of see what they were talking about. But having the kind of the windows in the opening number where you can see pedestrians walking by, I think that's a really cool part. I see kind of in this one too with the windows and the very bright lighting here and the really effective use of all these different colors of costumes. I like both of these because it shows different lighting effects, and they kind of have like a haze going on so you can see the beams of light. I really like this one because it shows the entire cast, and we see Huey just kind of up in center. I think both of these are really, really beautiful. They might be a little grainy, but I think they're really nice. Now that we've discussed the second production, let's discuss the final production done at Porchlight Music Theater in Chicago in 2018. My first piece of evidence comes from a review done by Heidi Weiss for WTTW Chicago. The clever set by Jacqueline and Richard Penrod is tellingly framed by a giant radio dial, a reminder of how powerful that medium once was, with Bill Morey's dozens of stylish, brightly hued costumes full of pizzazz, easily suggesting youth culture in changing times, and bringing an added dimension of movement to Carter's stunning dance sequences. I like how she mentions the giant radio dial and how it is a reminder of how large a part that played in the show, the radio itself. She also mentions the beautiful costumes in this production. My next piece of evidence comes from a review done by Katie Sullivan for the Chicago Sun-Times. Costume designer Bill Morey's cavalcade of 50 silhouettes is worthy of a couture runway. Set designers Jacqueline and Rich Penrod managed to pull the audience right into the center of the radio dial. It all adds up to a wildly entertaining production. I like this review because it comments again on how the set and costumes help push this production and make it great. My last piece of evidence comes from Lawrence B. Johnson in a review done for Chicago on the Isle. It is short, sweet, and to the point. Like Bill Morey's costumes, the sets of Jacqueline Penrod and Richard Penrod nail the early 50s. While short, I like this quote because I think it describes an important part of technical elements of theater. It is able to accurately portray a time period and make the audience feel like they are right in that time. Now that we've discussed the evidence, let's show some images. So these are two of my favorite images I found for the Porchlight Theater production. I think in both of these pictures, we really get to see what they were mentioning about really nice costumes. We see a wide array of different colors of clothing here, along with different styles. And you see again a different styles of costume here. But what I do like is that they are accurate of the 50s. I believe that all of these people are portraying people from the 50s. We also see some beautiful lighting with Felicia in the front and everybody else in the back, but there's still enough light to make out everybody's faces. I really like that. And overall, I just really like these two pictures. My purpose today was to discuss 3 productions of the musical Memphis, and to show you some production photos of those shows. Those shows were those done at the Schubert Theater, the Shaftesbury Theater, and the Porchlight Music Theater. My closing quote comes from the Associated Press, talking about how Memphis has its own identity. A bit of Dreamgirls and maybe even Hairspray can be found in the show's showbiz and race relation roots, but make no mistake, Memphis is its own musical, a potent reminder of what can happen when fine song and dance combine with a compelling story. Thank you.